I'm in Shenandoah National Park, and this is Elkwallow Gap, and over there is the Elkwallow Wayside. There's the Gray Ghost. This is mile marker 24. Skyline drives out that way, and back here is the trailhead for a trail that runs up a couple of miles north to the Mathews Arm Campground. This is called Elkwallow Trail. I'm going to hike that today. Two-tenths of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 2450, and here's the intersection with the Appalachian Trail. That's where I came from. This trail's blazed blue, and over there is a white blaze, so that's part of the Appalachian Trail. And here's the rest of it over here. And then we're going to continue on to the north on this blue blazed trail, Elkwallow Trail. Just still hiking north on this Elkwallow Trail. Maybe you can see from the video, this is an old road. I'll show you more about it when we do the map talk. This road runs along the western edge of a fairly large tract of land that was owned by E.G. Brumback. So everything to the right of this road over here is part of the Brumback tract. I have a video that I published, I think it was last year sometime. When I get a little farther up here, I'll point out there's a jumping off point up here where you can go look for the site of the old homestead. I never really found anything. I found the area though, but there's really nothing left. Maybe a few rock piles. But anyway, this thing, when I get up here far enough, it's going to dump out into the Mathews Arm Campground. And that is the about the northern limit of the Brumback tract. So it's a nice trail. It's they're maintaining it fairly well, and I'm a little out of breath because it's uphill all the way up to the campground, which means it'll be downhill all the way back to my car. .1 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2618, and that's the way I'm headed. It's been uphill. This is actually, you're looking at a bit of a downhill segment right there, but it's generally uphill. The mountain here is fairly steep. Down that way are the headwaters. At the bottom are the headwaters of Jeremy's Run. That's where I came from, that way back to Elkwallow Gap. There's looking uphill. That's part of the Brumback property right there. All that you see there. So, going to keep on heading up towards the campground. When I get to the little jumping off point to check out the Brumback homestead, I'll stop and point that out. 1.7 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2580. That's where I came from, Elkwallow Trail. Elkwallow Gap is back that way. And right here, there's this long straight stretch. And right there, you'll see a blue blaze on a tree, and all of a sudden, the trail makes a hard left. This is the jumping off point if you want to explore the old Brumback homestead area. It's right over here to the right, maybe 200 feet or so, 200, 250 feet, 300 feet in that direction. It's really overgrown right now, but if you go back in there in the wintertime, you can, there's an area up there that's fairly flat. You can explore that. I have a hike I already published on that if you look on my webpage, or on my YouTube channel, I should say. Down this way are the headwaters for Jeremy's Run. That's where we're headed. Jeremy's Run starts up there by Skyline Drive and comes down this way. And then it curves around down here and heads that way to the west. So let's keep going. The headwaters of Jeremy's Run down here are real shallow and wide, so rather than have people get wet all the time trying to cross, they put in this nice little boardwalk down here. Here's the boardwalk crossing Jeremy's Run. It's real nice. Here's where I came from. Up the hill, it's fairly steep there. And then here's the headwaters looking upstream. And then here's downstream. Two miles into my hike, the elevation here is 2710, and over there is the entrance to Mathews Arm Campground. That's the current day modern road, and up this way is the old road. Now this looks clear here, but once you get up here just a little ways, you run into a brick wall of undergrowth. I tried to bushwhack it from Skyline Drive about a year or so ago, and it was so nasty I just called it off and walked down this way on that road over there, which just runs parallel. But if you really want some hardcore bushwhacking, just head up this way. If you can find it on the old maps, and you can see it, you can see the ditch. But it's very hard to bushwhack it. Here's a signpost. This is where I came out of the woods. I'm going to turn around and head back towards Elkwallow Gap. It's about 2 miles back. I might take a look inside and see what kind of food they have, what kind of fast food they have, and maybe just eat there. .9 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2640. I think I mentioned earlier on my hike out that the property boundary for this Brumback property was right along the edge of this road. There's where I came from, so that'd be looking back up towards the campground. And all this property to the right was part of the Brumback track. And sure enough, right here, I just happened to notice there's some wire fencing here still on this tree. It's been knocked down most everywhere, but well, it's laying on the ground down there. So, but anyway, you can see that's probably the property boundary right there. And it's wire fencing. It's not barbed wire fencing, because that probably costs more, and they probably weren't trying to keep any cattle in this part. So anyway, I'll take a look at this location. I recorded the location. I'll compare it to the old maps when I get home. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Bentonville, 1994, and I hiked the Elkwallow Trail. The Elkwallow Trail runs from Elkwallow Gap, which is here, north to the Mathews Arm Campground, which is up here. You can park up here at the campground if you like, but I decided to park down here at the wayside. This is mile marker 24, so it's up in the northern district. If you park in the parking lot, when you come in off Skyline Drive, if you immediately make a right-hand turn and park up next to the trees, you'll see the trailhead there. It's blazed blue. And there's a concrete signpost there too that tells you it's a Elkwallow Trail. So I hiked north on this. It's about 2 miles up. When I got to here, just before crossing the headwaters of Jeremy's Run, in a previous hike that you can find on my channel, I showed a jumping off point to go look in this area right here for the homestead, the old homestead location for E.G. Brumback. This was his parcel of land. Then, so you can go look there, or search this area if you want. I think I found a few rock piles, and that was about it. But to the south, it gets very steep uphill, and to the north, it gets very steep downhill, going down to Jeremy's Run. Anyway, come down here, cross over the headwaters on this boardwalk that they've put in, and then this is a pretty steep climb up to here. When you get up to here, you'll find yourself at the Mathews Arm Campground. Now this map is from 1994, so there's some things that aren't shown on this map. One of them is the current day road runs from here up to the campground like this. This dotted line here is actually the old road, which is abandoned now. So I came up to here, turned around, and headed back to my car. Now down in through here somewhere I stopped and pointed out that there was some wire fencing still visible nailed to a tree here. The western property boundary for this tract of land was basically this old road. Followed it on back to my car. Now let me show you from the Shenandoah records, land records. This tract of land here is 396 acres, and it was owned by E.G. Brumback, tract number 11. It's in Page County. Down here is Elkwallow Gap and the wayside. And then up here is the area that became the Mathews Arm Campground. Now this was part of when they took people's land, they sent surveyors in to survey the boundaries so they knew how many acres it was. Because there was a lot of discrepancies between like turn of the century deeds and what the actual acreage ended up being when it was surveyed. So anyway, and if you see this shows the property line, the western boundary on the property line, and then you'll see that the road runs right along next to it, all the way up here to where the campground was. Okay, so that's the old map from the 1930s. Ended up being 3.9 miles and a total ascent of 535 feet. And that was the hike for today.